Yes, thank you all for tuning in with me. This is Self-Care Wednesdays. I appreciate all of the new listeners and all of the active listeners. I appreciate you all tuning in with me this Wednesday. Yes, Self-Care Wednesday. You know, I like to check in with myself in the middle of the week, just to make sure that everything is together and that my mind is in a good place and everything that I'm doing, I'm going down the right path, and if not, then hey, I have some rethinking and pre-planning and changing and a lot of things that I need to do so that I can make sure that I am straight. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I do on my Self-Care Wednesdays, and that's what I'm bringing to you. So this Self-Care Wednesday today is episode number 86. Yes, episode number 86 on the Creative Lips Podcast. And I'm your host, Regina. And I'm going to be talking about today. Yes, today I'm going to be talking about how to know when it's your intuition. We want to know. How can we determine if it's just a random thought or if it's really our intuition letting us know? It's that gut feeling letting us know that we need to really pay attention to. I'm going to get into that today, guys. Alright, guys, so now let's start this episode. Now, how I like to start my episodes off. I like to start my episodes off by giving words of encouragement, guys. Yes, words of encouragement. Yes, I like to give those words. Sometimes we need to hear those words of encouragement, and maybe we need to hear them every day. I know I do. I try to give myself words of encouragement, especially if you don't have a significant other or family, friend or whatever. But however, my children, for the most part, they give me words of encouragement all the time. Yes, they do. And I really appreciate it, because, it's a lot going on out here. You know what I'm saying? We are still making it through these weeks, this time, we are pushing through. And, I like to start off by saying that whoever is listening to this episode, only you know what situations is faced before you. You will make it out of that situation. It may not seem like it right now. You may not see that light at the end of the tunnel. It may seem so dark right now all around you. And things might seem to be crumbling down. But I'm here to tell you that you will make it through. You will make it out of that situation no matter what it is. You will see the light of day. And it will work out in your favor the way that you want it to be made out in your favor. In your favor, guys. In the end. In perfect timing. It will come to you just when you need it. The doors will open up just when you need it. It will fall right in your lap. Right there. Right on time, guys. Yes. Yes, guys. Now, this disclaimer, for my episodes, my Self-Care Wednesdays, they are strictly from my own opinion. And from my own experience, stuff that I have been through. And I just want to say that I am in no way, no shape, no form, a licensed psychologist or a licensed therapist, guys. So I just wanted to put that out there. All right, guys. All right, now, so let's get into this episode number 86. Intuition. Yes, that word intuition is knowing the feeling that you know it. And that sneaking suspicion that you feel when something is just not quite right in your life, or, something around you, a person or whatever, it's just not right. But you can't put your finger on it. You don't know why. Intuition can be a powerful guiding force and is more developed for some of us. Like, I know for me, over time, it became so screaming at me, so loud, that I really had to listen. Some people feel a strong urge while others don't. In some sense, that it's something there, right there in their core, when something is wrong. While, just like I said, others, with a less developed intuition, they might feel like something just, it's there, but no, it's not what I think it is. You know what I'm saying? So they go on about their day. And, they really begin to be not sure to interpret what it is. So what is intuition? How can we know what it is? How to know when it really is intuition and when it's right? How can we do that? What is it, ways and different things that we can do to tap in to our intuition? Sometimes, you feel that peaceful feeling inside your chest. You feel it deep down inside your chest and in your stomach. You get that feeling of butterflies and, it just feels like it's right. I can honestly say that when I was going through, during the pandemic, I can honestly say that when I was going through a lot of stuff during that time, I really had to weigh out a lot of options. I got let go from my job. And, I had to really think on my toes and really figure out, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to make ends meet? And, sometimes, our intuition, can be so strong. And during that time, my intuition was extremely strong. Even before they announced to me that I, was let go from my job, my previous place of employment. It just began to be so strong throughout the course of that whole week. And something told me, something was just like, you know what, pack up your stuff. And I didn't get any, clues, or, everybody was acting normal around me, even including my manager, but I could physically feel it. And I felt those effects all that week. I really did. And then I started to get this peaceful feeling in my gut that, yes, this is the right decision to do. Pack your shit up. You know what I'm saying? Pack all that shit up, And that's what I did. And I cleared out my desk. I done it when everyone left for the day, because I was always the only one there at that previous place of employment. When the manager left early and, and so forth. And I noticed that gut feeling, because that gut feeling was trying to communicate with me. And it was communicating with me so strong that, I had to give in to those sinking feelings that I'm coming down to my last days here, and for some reason I was feeling that feeling. And, many people describe, some people describe it as their intuition as a feeling, just like I said, is deep within their chests and in their stomach. Often it comes as a tightness in the areas around your chest, and the feeling as if, something is quite off, for you. And if you start to feel those feelings, and if it just begin to be stronger and stronger and stronger, trust me, listen to it. Listen to that feeling. Figure it out. Maybe you probably need to, take some time and step back and really analyze what you are feeling inside. Because you never know, what it is trying to tell you, And, just like I said in that situation, it was really screaming really loud to me. I even went home that day, just like I said, everybody was fine. My manager was fine. Everything was, she was giving me work, delegating work to me, just like it was normal. But it wasn't until the end, the day of the pandemic, was March the 13th. I can remember like it was yesterday. And they gave me my walking papers, and, after everything was said and done, I knew that my intuition was right, and I can always trust it. Can you trust your intuition? Can you trust your gut? You can also have another side of feelings, that you can feel confident and happy even when the decision doesn't seem rational. I started to get those feelings. I started to feel a sense of calmness, a sense of peace, that I made peace with this decision because I knew it was coming. Even those moments when, you start to daydream, about what is going on in your life or what you want to see happen. In this situation, it's funny because I dreamed about quitting that job. I really did. I wanted to beat them to it before they did it, because I knew that with everything that was going on with COVID and, and these corporations trying to figure out what they were going to do, this is before the pandemic had, was announced all over the world, but, when you daydream about the things that you want to do, you get that moment of clarity about that gut decision and that feeling that you're feeling. That right there is your intuition trying to speak to you. Well, it might, of course, right now, that situation, what I just talked to you about, it may not seem logical to you. It may not seem a logical answer. The thought that you're having may actually be the answer you've been looking for. Sometimes things work out, just like I always say, they always work out in our favor. That might be your opportunity. And things happen for a reason. I always say that. Because when your intuition speaks to you and when you learn to tune into it, you feel that sense of confidence and clarity when it speaks to you. When you're scared, your ego is speaking to you, Don't be scared of it. You might feel that fear right now, and you might feel that uncertainty, but it's up to you to know and trust, because you know more than you think you do. You do. And if you sit down and really, really look within yourself, you may, find out that is the best decision that you have ever made in your life. Because you can sharpen your intuition. If you feel as though to say, hey, I hear everything that you're saying, Regina, but how can I sharpen my intuition? How can I tap into it? Every person on this planet has intuition. We all do, guys. We all do. But not, every person listens and chooses to listen to it, Intuition is the way that your subconscious mind communicates with the conscious mind. The information that informs you that the feeling is real. Yes, that feeling is real. When you're feeling that gut feeling, like you go and walk into a store and you feel that something is quite not right, and then you say, you know what, I'm going to walk back out this store. Trust it. Because it's like any other decision. But the workings of it, the collection, the storage, the putting together happens outside of our conscious mind. So intuition is, of course, it is a brilliant thing. It's a powerful thing that we have within us. The sharper you can tap into this, the better off you will be, guys. Come on now. Now, this is the main way that you can sharpen your intuition. Just take a brief moment and just listen. In the quietness, in the stillness. And it sounds simple, right? That you can just sit back and just listen, right? Listen to your mind or listen to your feelings inside. It's simple, right? There's nothing tricky there. It's nothing, that you have to really, really overthink about, because your intuition can talk to you if you're not even listening. When you start to take notice, just like that brief moment that you just sat there and you just listened, good things will happen. Just try it and you'll see. And once again, just like I said, always trust, your gut feeling. Try your best to trust your gut feeling. When a word like gut, think about the word gut. Some of us, we think about the word gut. When we just said, you know what, I need to lose some damn weight. You know what I'm saying? But however, the other gut. When the word gut teams up with the word like feeling, there has to be a good reason that there is. Because research suggests that emotion and intuition have a physical presence within your gut. Yes, it does. The gut is lined. I'm telling you guys, your gut, your inside Your subconscious inside is lined with a network of neurons and is often referred to as your second brain. It's true. And it contains 100 million neurons, guys. Yes. And this is why we get sick about having to make tough decisions in our lives, and it's also knowing that, we've made good ones too as well. If we can sit back and just try to feel those gut feelings and that intuition, you'll know your intuition is there because you'll be able to feel it if you let yourself feel it. And, if you really tap into it, you'll get those goosebumps on your skin. And I know that situation, that whole week, I'm telling you, it was just like the hair was standing right off of my arm. And you can literally see it. It was crazy. It was just something just really, really just calling to me. And I even had lucid dreams. I was experiencing a lot of lucid dreams because dreaming about, that very same thing really, was just calling to me that, I lost everything. I just kept on dreaming about that. I lost everything. And I just kept on losing stuff. But however, I'm telling you, it was the dream telling me that they're getting ready to let you go, girl. You know what I'm saying? And, I had to listen to it. And that's what I did. And, I'm happy that I listened to my gut feelings. And I'm happy that I am able to tap into a lot of ways to feel when something isn't right and to feel, that clarity. I want to be able to know when something is off in my life. Don't you want to know when something isn't right or something isn't going quite the way that it should? Trusting your intuition might be difficult, when you first started off. At first you might not be used to it if this is something that you're interested in doing. But give it some time. Just give it some time and trust it. Trust me. Trust your instinct. I'm telling you. Because if you trust it bit by bit, it'll start to feel better. You will start to feel better about making decisions, especially big ones in your life. And I'm telling you, in the end, it will be worth it. It will be worth it if you can do that. Because, the more information you are able to gather from what's going on around you, your environment, the more intuitive your subconscious part of your brain has to work with, and the more accuracy you will come out on top. I'm telling you, every single time I always come out on top of all of my decisions that I make, guys. All of them. All right, now to the number one tip. There are so many things that can inform your opinion and the decisions that you make in your life. You can just go off of, how you're feeling, even with, different things around you in your environment. by looking at the tone, the volume, the speech, the body language, and even the gestures. They all contribute to the meaning, and they give you your interactions on how you should base your daily life. You know, sometimes we have a feeling about what's going on in our life and even about people. But, you know, you can't quite put your finger on it or whatever it is. The more time we spend with ourselves and with people, the more we can finely tune our accuracy, and we will be able to pick up on those signals of others and even the signals that's trying to tell us about ourselves, you know, and this will be an added, you know, thing for us in the long run. All right, guys. All right now. Yes, guys. Yes. So I just wanted to say to you, you know, before I end this episode, I just want to thank you all, you know, for your genuine support in listening to all of my episodes on the Creative Lips Podcast. All right, guys. Yes, I appreciate you all for tuning in with me. Yes, guys, this is episode number 86. Yes, guys, I'm telling you, this Self-Care Wednesdays is just so special to me. You know, I would try my best to get these out to you every Wednesday, just about, you know, as time permits me to get these out to you guys. And, you know, and just like I said, feel free to listen to all of my other Self-Care Wednesdays. You know, if you don't get an episode for that Wednesday, just backtrack and listen to any other episodes that you didn't get a chance to check out, because you never know, you know, those might be, you know, a good help for you, or they might be a good help for someone else. And that's why I encourage you all to share these episodes, guys. Just share them, guys, you know, because they may be helpful to someone else. All right, guys. Yes. Follow me on all of my social media. Follow me on Instagram at CreativeLipsPodcast. And follow me on Twitter, guys, at CreativeLipsPod, guys. Yes, guys. Yes, I appreciate you all. And don't forget to leave me that 5-star rating and leave me a review, guys. And if you want to hear more episodes like this, feel free to DM me. And you can also send me an email at creativelipspodcast@gmail.com. Yes, guys. And I post stuff on my social media, guys. And follow me there. All right, guys. I appreciate you. Until next time.
You are now listening to episode 86 of the Creative Lips Podcast.